Sunday, this being the fourth Sunday. Are we expecting storytellers?
We have some people who are out sick and other people who are unable to make it today. So
Sounds unlikely.
Linda and I are here. If anyone wants to join us, just let us know. We're happy to stay or go.
Okay. That's a feeble invitation at best, but there you go. The book discussion group will not meet in November. Their next meeting is the first Friday in December, which is December 5th, and they'll discuss Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond, and the contact person is Susan Bullard. Next Sunday's sermon will be provided by Reverend Susan Ross. Her sermon title will be Philosophy in the Peanut Gallery. As she mentioned in the November newsletter, what makes children's books, good ones, able to so creatively and succinctly explore important philosophical questions? On Sunday, December 7th, from 1 to 2:30, after the morning service and social time, we'll trim the tree and have a carol jam fest. Tree decorations and music and rhythm instruments will be provided. Of course, feel free to bring your own musical instruments. The contact people are Ani Love and Debbie Breitmeyer. As you likely read in the November newsletter, Jim Scott, an acclaimed UU composer, poet, and activist, will conduct our Sunday service on December 14th. In addition to that, he'll be holding a concert here on Saturday, December 13th at 3. And I'm assuming we may learn more about that later. Are there other announcements? Lynn? Other announcements?
Well, it's time for the church minute. I have very short minutes for you today. First thing is a reminder and a little pep talk on Jim Scott. We've been talking with him and getting more and more enthused with it. Our leader in this effort is Shiitake, who's on vacation, so we're having a little trouble getting it moving. But we will be having the concert here on Saturday afternoon before the service that he'll conduct, and we hope to get some interest from outside of the church as well as inside the church. We'll have a group rate. We'd like to try to contact people in maybe in the retirement communities and see if we can get some groups coming here that way. The other thing is that our streaming so far is looking pretty good, and we think it's time to make the switch to YouTube, and very possibly, or we do expect to be on YouTube next week. Thanks to Eric. Finally, we're going to be having a push to use church meetings more. If anybody today has some interest or questions, come see me immediately after the service, and I will help you with it. There will be some advantages to having access to it in the future. And that's our minute. Thank you. Time for the prelude.
I walk the unfrequented road with open eye and ear. I watch afield the farmer load the bounty of the year. I gather where I did not sow, and bind the mystic sheaf. The amber ere the rivers flow, the rustle of the leaf.
I know there's stuff out there I don't want to trip on.
There's nothing.
Was there, there's a music stand. No, I've got the microphone. This day is a gift of love, a gift from God, a gift from life itself. Come, let us worship together, for this is the day we have been given to live in, to love in, and in time to die in. Let us rejoice in our capacity to think, feel, hear, and understand. And let us rejoice in the promise and the possibility of this day. Let there be light to drive away the darkness. Let there be wisdom to shine on the unknown. Let there be love to heal our aloneness. Let each of us be a light for one another.
Our opening hymn will be number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For
Our story this morning is read by Nicholson Earl Billy, who is of the Choctaw and Muskogee people of Oklahoma and is an enrolled member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. PBS had a series called Reading Rainbow, which was one of my daughter's very favorite shows. In April of 1997, they released the episode that this story comes from. And my son was born 3 days before that, and my daughter was 5 years old. So this kind of has some nostalgia for me because I've seen almost every Reading Rainbow there ever was.
Hi. You know, I just love autumn. The trees are bright with color, the air is crisp, and all of my favorite fruits and vegetables are ripe and ready to eat. You know, when I look at all of these wonderful things that come from the earth, it makes me want to stop and say thanks. And a lot of people feel the same way. One group of Native Americans, the Iroquois, begins each morning with a message of respect called Giving Thanks.
Giving Thanks, a Native American good morning message by Chief Jake Swamp. Illustrated by Erwin Printop Jr. Read by Nicholson Earl Billy. To be a human being is an honor, and we offer thanksgiving for all the gifts of life. Mother Earth, we thank you for giving us everything we need. Thank you, deep blue waters around Mother Earth, for you are the force that takes thirst away from all living things. We give thanks to green grasses that feel so good against our bare feet, for the cool beauty you bring to Mother Earth's floor. Thank you, good foods from Mother Earth, our life sustainers, for making us happy when we are hungry. Fruits and berries, we thank you for your color and sweetness. We are all thankful to good medicine herbs for healing us when we are sick. Thank you, all the animals in the world, for keeping our precious forests clean. All the trees in the world, we are thankful for the shade and warmth you give us. Thank you, all the birds in the world, for singing your beautiful songs for all to enjoy. We give thanks to you, gentle four winds, for bringing clean air for us to breathe from the four directions. Thank you, Grandfather Thunder Beings, for bringing rains to help all living things grow. Elder Brother Sun, we send thanks for shining your light and warming Mother Earth. Thank you, Grandmother Moon, for growing full every month to light the darkness for children and sparkling waters. We give you thanks, twinkling stars, for making the night sky so beautiful and for sprinkling morning dewdrops on the plants. Spirit protectors of our past and present, we thank you for showing us ways to live in peace and harmony with one another. And most of all, thank you, Great Spirit, for giving us all these wonderful gifts so we will be happy and healthy every day and every night.
Today's reading is a poem by E.E. Cummins. E.E. Cummins was a transcendentalist and a Unitarian. His father was a Unitarian preacher and minister, sorry, and, yeah, we don't preach, yeah. You know, I guess you do. Okay, all right. And a professor at Harvard, and E.E. Cummins also graduated from Harvard, magna cum laude. He lived from 1894 to 1962 and was a playwright, authorist, did I say transcendentalist? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna emphasize that, and poet. And he wrote in lowercase, which was always interesting, so. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and of love and wings and of the gay, great, happy, illuminatively earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing any lifted from the know of all nothing, human merely being, doubt unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened.
It's time for the offertory. Our church is supported by your donations. This month, we'll share a portion of the plate with Wings of Hope.
Writing history's fairer page, hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
anyone's view of my beautiful face. Thank you for that piece there. It's special to me particularly because the lyrics for that come from a colleague of mine who I'm very close to, Kendall Gibbons. We served on the UUMA exec together and on the committee that rewrote the Ministers Association guidelines. So it was a special Thanksgiving delight for me to hear something from her. About 9 years ago, maybe a little less than that, I had just lost my sight after a series of strokes through 2015. And I had a friend who was giving me a ride somewhere. And this is a person who is rather traditionally religious. Some might even call him a Bible thumper. But he asked me, "Do you blame God for your blindness?" And I thought for a second, and I said, well, I figure unless I am giving thanks for every good thing that has ever happened to me, suggesting blame for something in the fact that I lost my sight seems inappropriate. Particularly since I know it was a lot of the health conditions that I'd put on myself that caused me to lose my sight. What I wish I had answered him with was in the form of a parable with this story. That once there was someone who went to visit a neighbor, and the neighbor was sitting on their porch. And on the porch next to them was a yellow tabby cat, a big cat, obviously pretty old. It had an ear that had been bitten off and an eye that had been put out, and its tail was cut at about a 90-degree angle where it had been broken, obviously, and it seemed to have a limp in its get-along. And somebody says, "It's quite a cat you've got there." I said, "Yes, it is. Came up to me today." I said, "What's its name?" He says, "I don't know what his name is, but he answers to Lucky." And that's what I tell you, is that I am lucky. I'm one of the luckiest peoples I know. Yes, I can't see very well. But yes, I have lots of people who helped give me rides. Coming to this community, moving here a little over 4 years ago, was one of the best things I could have possibly done. The outreach of people here to me has been great. And it's not just because I'm one of those who stands up here and talks from time to time. I really believe the outreach to me has been because of compassion that is bred into this church, that is baked into how we do things. Because you all have given me rides to chemo when I was going to radiation every day for 7 weeks. You all visited me in the hospital when I got my hip replaced. You visited me in the hospital when I fell and broke my back and neck. And you visited me in the hospital this summer when I broke my arm and brought me food every day for about 3 or 4 weeks. Yes, I answer to Lucky. These are all blessings. And the piece I didn't want to get into John with, my friend, was that I don't believe in the kind of providential God that he believes in. That's one of those big seminary words, providential. It means the God who reaches into the affairs of life and changes things. The kind of God you could pray to get through a test or to have rain or whatever the reason, whatever it is. But that's not the kind of God I believe in. But I didn't really want to go into that whole explanation with him. So just telling him a little parable there would have been the better thing to do. I say that because this is baked into the way that I understand our theology, is this gift, the gifts we give, the gifts we receive. Where they come from, that's my big question. Where does this come from? Now, I'm willing to say it's grace, even though I really don't believe in a God that would bestow grace, because I think grace is a normative thing in the world, which is why I use the same call to worship that I use here every Sunday, and I've used since I wrote it in 2001, I believe. Maybe I'll get creative one day and write a new one. I don't know. But the idea that this day is a gift, as the first thing that I say as a reminder, means that I didn't earn this day. It was given to me. There's nothing I did to receive this, but I'm responsible for how I use it. And that is the notion of a gift. It's actually a rewriting of a phrase that I heard the way they used to use at Tulsa All Souls Unitarian Church. They began their service every Sunday with, "This is a day the Lord has made." Well, I'm not quite that theistic. So I'll just say that this day is a gift. It gets to the same point to me. A gift of love, a gift from God, a gift from life itself. It's the day we've been given to live in, to love in, and in time to die in. And yes, I know you're not supposed to end sentences with prepositions, but I do it anyway. It makes sense to me poetically. Because I do hold up that what we do here is to celebrate the gift of life. We come together to celebrate gifts, the gifts we all have, even on the days we can't see them. Even on the days that I am certain that there's nothing gifted for me in this day, I need the reminder that yes, this is a day I was given. I didn't earn this day. It is a gift. And so as we come up on Thanksgiving, I want to give thanks for some gifts. And I want to do that first by inviting you into a time for meditation and prayer. I invite you to settle yourself into your chair a little more comfortably. Move yourself in, stretch your back a little bit if you need to. Get comfortable. Become aware of your breath. Rising and falling in your body as it has done your whole life. And after you become familiar with your breath, perhaps you can feel your heartbeat as it has done every moment of your life. To be connected to yourself bodily in this space. To be aware of the people around you and that they have breath rising and hearts beating just like you do. And they have gifts, and you have gifts, and we've all received gifts. And I want you to reflect for a moment on some gift that you've been given. Could be a physical gift, could be an emotional gift, could be an intellectual gift. Could be something you got from family or from a friend or from a professor or from a doctor or from whomever or from a person on the street who you didn't know. For they all bear gifts to us. To think about that for a moment. To bring your centeredness of your bodily self to the recognition of a gift that you have. And I invite you to join me in a few moments of silent meditation. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift that we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. Join me, please. We're just going to sing that verse again. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift that we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift that we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. I hope you will take that as a little gift I'm giving you today. Kind of a mantra. There are many of these hymns that bang around in my head, songs. As you know, my mind is overrun with song, constantly, all the time. But that's one that's lovely to have. When you're going through life and say, for all that is my life, I sing my thanks and praise. For all life is a gift that we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. It's not just for us, it's for everybody. And it's not occasionally, it's all days. So I offer that to you as a kind of mantra. Perhaps you could put it into your hip pocket and pull it out sometime when you're feeling a little stressed and you need to have a reminder of something peaceful. First of all, it's a lovely melody. And thank you, Ani, for stepping up after I called you last night and said, we're going to do something different tomorrow. Appreciate that. I want to share you some of the gifts that I have. And these are very particular to me, and this is going to be more autobiographical than I usually am. If I knew much about anybody else, I'd probably talk about them too. I am thankful for the family I was born into. Not that it was a perfect family, it wasn't. My parents divorced when I was in 7th grade, and it was bad times after that. I'm not sure it was good times before that. But after that, it was very difficult times. My mother was raising 4 boys. I was the oldest of 4, separated by a total of 9 years, on what meager earnings she could get from working as the religious education director at the church. And then as now, churches don't pay terribly well. But she pulled it through, and she taught us things. And I've been spending some time this week trying to get concisely some of the things my mother told me that I can share you as the gift that she gave me. One thing that she taught me is to use what you got. Don't become obsessed about what you don't have. Use what you've got and use it to the best of your ability. Use what you've got to the best of your ability, always to the best of your ability, knowing it will never be perfect. It will always be flawed. But you still have to use what you've got because you can't use anything else. And you need to use it to the best of your ability. And the second is unto the first. Life isn't fair. That was a lesson she gave me early on, is equal to that. Life isn't fair and there will be mistakes. And it's a blessing to have that as a deep part of my being. Now, for her, a lot of this insight probably comes from the fact that she raised me in the Unitarian Church Sunday School, but she was raised in the Unitarian Church Sunday School as well. Same church, Oklahoma City, downtown. When I went back to serve some 45 years later. Because what we learned there through this system, through this faith tradition, was the way that we approach life. She started attending the Unitarian Church after her mother got divorced, and she married a man who was a Unitarian. This is one of the fun sidelines in my life. My grandmother married a Unitarian, became a Unitarian. Her brother married a Mormon and became a Mormon. There, but for the grace of, go I. But the way that we approached religious education, actually, religious education started out in Unitarian circles. The first of any denomination Sunday schools was in Wellesley, Massachusetts at First Parish, which is now First Parish Unitarian, in, I think, 1829. That was the first ever Sunday school. Till then, all churches said, you bring the kids in, you sit them in the pews with you, and you slap them on the hand if they start to get anxious. Our folks said, no, there's got to be a better way to deal with children than that. After all, William Ellery Channing, no less, has said the great end in religious instruction is not to impress our mind on the children's mind, but to help them excite their own curiosities, their own creativity, and come up with their own beliefs, their own understandings. And that's part of it. And I want to talk about today is some of the very specific things that we have done in my lifetime that help along that way. And some of it's curriculum. When I was very young, actually before I was young, in 1950, the AUA, the predecessor to the UUA, released a series of 3 books called the Martin and Judy books. Well, these were stories it was like Fun with Dick and Jane, but with religious themes to help children awaken a moral, a spiritual piece of themselves, and to have it freely given and freely taken, not being forced into them, not giving them a catechism to memorize, but giving them these stories so that they could learn, so we could learn. And when I got into Sunday school age, we were making a shift over, and we had started to adopt some interesting curriculums. Now, these are dated, of course, and the language is, man the decision maker. Well, get rid of the man part, human's the decision maker. But the idea that decision making is appropriate square for religious consideration. Another one was man the myth maker. Man the myth maker. That myths come out of us, as Joseph Campbell said, myth springs from the human head like hairs do. It comes out of the human being like hairs come from our head. Myth, everyone has myth. Sophia Lyon-Fawes was the big push in this. And if you've been around UUism for any time at all, I hope that you've heard her name. She was born the child of Presbyterian missionaries in China. But she came back to the States, and she fell in with Unitarians. She believed, as some had before her, that what we do with children should be age appropriate, developmentally appropriate. That you don't just make them sit there and listen to an erudite sermon by a Harvard-educated minister. That you have to break things down in a way that they can understand it, that they can appreciate it. And she did, her first book, I think, was Beginnings, and that was a story of creation myths from around the world. There's another one of her books that was Long Ago in Many Lands, which is a series of ethical fables from all over the place. I think one of them in there was probably the blind man and the elephant. That kind of thing in there that can lead to really interesting curiosity when you realize all these people were touching the same thing, but they weren't saying the same thing. And so that was kind of that you that flowed from my mother into me. We also did a very important thing that I think is still essential today. That was we were early on to focus on to sexuality curriculum and sexuality education in churches. I took a course called Human Sexuality, which was within 2 years. It was a prototype of what would become About Your Sexuality. Human Sexuality. I think my class was in 71 or 72, something like that. So we've had a long run at this. And then it became About Your Sexuality. And in the late 1990s, early 2000s, we changed it again and became Our Whole Lives. Because the idea was that sexuality is something that carries on from our earliest days all the way up. How we receive gender messages with very young people, very young children. Of course, it starts with kindergartners. And with the kindergarten classes in Our Whole Lives, basically they're teaching good touch, bad touch. How to know when someone is inappropriately treating you. Because many children learn that only years later as a victim. So we had these things going on. Also, the kind of stuff that I did in my youth group in junior high and high school, the kind of activities we did prepared me perfectly to go into high school and college where I would take psychology and human relations and those sort of things. Because we were doing those little exercises, you know, the 6 people in a lifeboat, or the things that you've got in the moon. You know, how can you survive with these things on the moon? All of that I later ran into college coursework even, I had done when I was 13, 14, because the UU Church pushed it early. The other thing I got from there was being around honestly interesting, engaged adult people. People who weren't there to just kind of make me think I'm important, but who actually cared about me. Those interactions with those kind of people, with you kind of people, are what shaped me as a young person. To where when I came time to look at careers, well, second careers anyway. Actually, I did consider ministry as a first career, but I decided I'd already been in college for way too long and I needed to make some money. Of course, I chose to be in radio, which didn't let me make any money, but that's a whole other story. But this kind of interaction with people who were often PhDs, lawyers, MDs, state senators, state representatives, state Supreme Court justices in the church. When I went to college, I had no fear of sitting down and talking to anybody who was a professor. I don't know why, but they didn't chase me off. But I had no sense of distance. I think I had an appropriate respect, but I didn't view them as being so far above me I could never understand them. And that was another piece that led me on a path of embracing everyone, knowing that no one is that far above me or below me, neither above or below. That what matters are these lateral connections we make with our hands, how we reach up and touch each other and help each other and lift each other up in times of sorrow and lift each other in times of joy too. There are many things to be thankful for the beauty of the earth. That's one of my favorite hymns. It goes deep in my soul. Of course, when I learned it, it was not source of all to thee we sing, but Lord of all to thee we sing. Even the Unitarians were singing God in those days. Actually, the church I grew up in, Oklahoma City, had the Lord's Prayer every Sunday until about 1974. And the classic lines, the minister would do his prayer and say, with thy spirit, and they'd say, and with your spirit, or those kind of little interactions that you see in more traditional churches. So we're not that far gone or departed from what is very normal liturgically among other churches and religious organizations. Of course, I also had through that process begun to experience not only the Jewish community in Oklahoma City. There has always been a close relationship between Unitarians and Jews. Some people call them Junitarians. I prefer Unibrews. No. Also, to be exposed to Buddhism. I began learning about Buddhism when I was probably 14, 13, something like that. Hinduism, other world religions, philosophies. The forum we had every Sunday, which was a contemporary issues forum, which was a big deal in the church. To go in and listen to newsmakers who were coming into the church to talk to us. Those are all the pieces that I draw out of our faith tradition, which is why I am so much in love with our faith tradition and why I have given myself to this faith tradition nearly universally for the last 30 years that I've been, more than that, but since I've been preparing for ministry. I hope that you've maybe thought of a couple of things in your life, people, places, schools, interactions, family, friends, that you can look to as a source of gifts that you're thankful for gifts that you are thankful for. Thanksgiving's coming. I hope everyone has a beautiful day and doesn't eat too much. Amen. Well, you're right. It'll all come out in the gym.
Our next hymn is number 68, Come Ye Thankful People.
It is our job to find them, to know them, and to share them. be at peace, share love, and go into the world with a perfect heart. Amen.
We continue with trail markers, but this is the end of the recorded portion of our service.